by all accounts, knowing people who were there, they said fabulous.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I chose that.
I don't know why you chose that word either.
Because I like big guys.
I cannot lie.
This is Tall Can Audio.
Episode 1126 of the Tall Can Audio podcast, off and running, coming to you from our studio in beautiful Bytown, Canada. My name's Matt Robinson, Rob Christie alongside. What are you saying today, man?
It's pretty shitty, Matt.
Okay.
The world is literally on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Getting smoked out, as are most of the sports teams I cheer for.
Yeah.
So, and I'm a year older.
I like it, man.
So it's really, it's a bit of a grind.
I applaud the wordplay. You are. We're a day past, I guess 2 days now for the good listener. Rob finishing another rotation around the sun. Does it feel any different, man?
It feels very much the same.
Okay.
Very much the same. Yeah. Although it was nice. People came with gifts of beer.
Oh.
And 3 racks of uncooked ribs.
Here, cook these.
Yeah. No, I'm the only one that's going to eat them.
Right. Okay.
So at a date in the not too distant future,
right.
Yeah, I've split them up into 3 half racks.
Okay.
And then into 2 packages. So I'll cook a rack and a half at a time.
Spread it out a little bit.
Yeah. So I am going to start. I'll unfreeze one of those on Wednesday and start marinating it
in
mostly coffee, little olive oil, little garlic. Maybe a pinch of soy, but mostly coffee to help break it down.
Right.
Yeah. And then rub it up, low and slow, finish on the grill with a little bit of sauce.
Right on, man.
That's what's happening here, Matt.
Yeah. I will remind the good listener, and I think we'll drop this on Friday morning, speaking of birthdays.
The show here?
No.
Oh.
They'll be hearing this one already.
Yes.
As we have an episode coming up, speaking of birthdays, that we're going to drop for you on Friday. Is Rob taking a swipe at, or stab at.
And it'll be a swing.
At a lot of the music that's going to make up the playlist for my upcoming 40th birthday disaster. And it's funny, actually. I was texting with our buddy Bunda there on Saturday night while the UFC was going on, while the CFL was going on, NHL was going on, all the sports goings on. And we were talking about a few different athletes, and I don't want to out him here because I don't want him to get in trouble at work, but he was unhappy with somebody. And he sent me the following text, like, guy's been around for years and has zero sexiness. Mm-hmm. And I want that on a banner hung at the party when we show up.
I'm like, he absolutely knows you.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think he was talking about me, but I love it. We're gonna work on that. So we'll drop that for you on Friday morning. Little talking about an old man's favorite music over the course of his life.
Old man, don't take a look at me now.
Yeah, little Cialis and Chains, we'll call it maybe as we move through this.
Nice.
Beers. You got beers, I got beers. What are we drinking today?
Yeah, some of the beer that got brought to me I've never had from this brewery. So this is an English ale coming in at 5.3% from Lake on the Mountain out of Picton, sort of Prince Edward County.
Okay.
So, as I said, English ale, about 5.3. I'm going to give this a pull and see where it shakes loose. What do you have over there?
So I'm back to a brewery I've had a few things from lately. This is the Fenland Falls Brewing Company, but this is a new beer that new to me anyway. This is their East Coast IPA. It is titled East Coast IPA, 5%.
This is called English ale, so
right.
We're 2 for 2 here.
Exactly, with the creativity on the titles. 5%, they say, well, the description is everything you would expect from an East Coast IPA, right? Kind of hazy, whatever. So we'll see what that's all about. If I'm being honest, in previous years, I've sort of been fairly indifferent to a lot of the stuff coming out of the Fenland Falls Brewing Company. It was okay, but not great.
How old is the brewery?
I don't know, 5 years.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe
but that to me is key.
Yeah, and I think that's, I think they're growing into themselves here a little bit, right? Figuring it out, because a couple of the things that I've had now from there over the last couple weeks since I was in and picked up a bunch of things have been pretty nice. So kudos to them, man. A tip of the cap as they, like I said, they grow into themselves, get a little more confident maybe in their recipes, whatever they got going on there. And I reserve the right to take it all back if this isn't a good beer.
Yeah, and I find that to be the case for me, Evergreen.
Right.
When they first were open, I didn't really love anything they did. But then, yeah, I think they've got to a spot, and they may be 5 or 6 years in. I'm not entirely sure.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, they have totally got down what it is they do best and what works. They do a nice stout.
Yeah, lean into it.
And their IPAs, both East Coast and West Coast, really are. They do some good stuff over there. But this year, this English ale from Lake on the Mountain, very nice. A little malty, sort of malt forward, not heavily carbonated.
Right.
I would suggest it may be something that you could take down in all seasons and really enjoy.
Okay.
I like it. It's nice so far.
On this day, Rob, in 1993, this smash hit movie set an all-time record for opening weekend, whatever they call
93?
it, sales or...
Yeah. Blum, blum, blum. But Pulp Fiction.
That's a little older than that, isn't it? No?
No, I would say it's right in that sort of mid. That may be even 94, 95.
Jurassic Park.
Fuck. I've never seen any of them.
You've never seen even the original?
No.
Because I know there's been like 100 since then. And they're
not even the original.
At the time, I remember we wanted badly to go, and Mom wouldn't let us. Said it was, going to be too scary or whatever it was. And in 93, at this point, I'm 10 years old.
Too young, man.
But I do remember by the fall, maybe a little bit later than that, it's out on VHS. And Dad stops on the way home with us in the truck once, runs in, picks up a copy. And we did get to see it, but much later. I remember being more amused than scared very early on. There's a bunch of scientists digging through a giant mountain of dinosaur shit, which for a 10-year-old was hilarious, right? That was maybe the most memorable thing the kids were talking about after they had seen it was the giant pile of dinosaur shit.
How big that pile was?
Right.
Is that one dinosaur or is that many dinosaurs?
Man. Yeah. And what are you hoping to learn in there? But anyway, it was at the time, man. I remember it being huge, right? It was out, and it was one of those things that became like the McDonald's themed, whatever, the Happy Meals and all that. It's like one of those at the time, $502 million on opening weekend. And that was the all-time record for an opening weekend. That record is now held by
Avatar?
One of the Avengers movies at something at $1.2 billion. Now, I don't know what that, $93 to $23 is and how that all shakes loose. But it has obviously been unseated a few times. But
By Vinny Chase and Aquaman?
Obviously. I'm surprised you hadn't seen it, man. It's just one of those ones that was so big at the time. And
I want to say the 90s were that period where I'm sort of in my 20s. And
standing behind this theater drinking instead of going in and watching it.
Oh, no, I've graduated now. I can go to bars now, and legally I don't need to stand behind. Yeah, exactly. The dumpster.
I fit in better.
The dumpster is so fine. So none of the Jurassic Parks, none of the Lord of the Rings.
No, but those came significantly later.
Late 90s, I would say. Early 2000s.
Any of the Star Wars is?
4, 5, 6, 1, 2, and half of 3.
Okay.
How about that? But none of the ones after that.
So 4.
So that's the New
what
Hope.
Order they
that
came
is
out?
That is the original 1977, 78 one. 4, 5, and 6 are
Never seen any of them.
Really, that to me is way more fascinating than
Jurassic Park.
Than
or
me
Lord
not
of the
seeing
Rings
Jurassic Park. Now, again, the original Star Wars came out and I was like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And it was a phenomenon, right? So
there's a time when obviously it came out before I was even around, right? The originals. And so in the 80s or 90s, when you just as a kid see anything in like that shitty production value, you're like, fuck off, I'm not watching that, right? And then
time for that.
By the time the new one started to come out, I just wasn't that interested. And
you were too old for
probably, yeah. But it is interesting because, as you know, for a time there, and I don't know that I'm totally past it, but I was a bit of a Star Trek nerd. So I don't know. I know there's a tribal thing there that a lot of people get into. Like
100%.
If you're into one, you're not into the other. I never really felt like that. But yeah, through kind of 10, 11, 12, I was big into the next generation, right? And so it is interesting that if you're like sort of half into space stuff anyway, that you never would have checked out any of it. And I just never did.
You wanted to get into one of those fantasy chambers or whatever those things were called.
The holodeck.
The holodecks,
Yeah.
exactly.
I could have some fun with a holodeck.
You're going to get in there with whoever the psychologist was.
Counselor Troy?
Yeah.
No, it was always Lieutenant Yar.
Oh, the blonde.
The blonde. It was
So
like,
you strike me much more as because Troy was buxom of both bottom and breast.
true. Yeah.
I figured that to be way more in your
Okay.
wheelhouse.
Wouldn't have turned her away from my holodeck.
It's okay.
But she wasn't the first invitation. And I don't even need an invitation. You just make your own.
I'm in my own holodeck,
Right.
man. And if you want to make your holodeck look bigger, trim the bush around
A lot of
it.
things look bigger in there, yeah. You wonder how... anyway, let's talk about... We had a fairly important passing away in the world of sports last week, Rob.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, you got to help me out.
The Iron Sheik.
Oh, I did hear that. Late,
Yep.
like on Friday.
Yeah, Thursday or Friday.
He and Nikolai Volkov. Hey,
Yeah, of course.
in the mid '80s,
Yeah.
doing their sort of you got the Middle Eastern guy and the Russian guy,
Ayatollah. And the,
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan. I kick your ass.
and got the Paisley stuff going for him there. Yeah, the Iron Sheik.
Had a second life online. There was some guys that helped him run a Twitter account that was basically just like he'd take a quote or a song lyric or whatever and just turn it into like, in good times and bad, go fuck yourself. Or
Yeah, I think the final thing he put out was "fuck the wildfires."
yes, exactly. And who can't relate to that?
100%, man.
The Iron Sheik, though, I'll just dive in quickly.
The camel clutch.
Yep. The guy who helped kick off Hulkamania. That's who Hulk Hogan beat in January 1984 to win the championship for the first time.
Or the Iron Sheik was the champion.
He was the champion. Now, he's
He's like from Toronto or something, isn't he?
I think he's from Iran.
okay,
and then settled in Toronto, I
Yeah,
believe.
but I think he came through like Maple Leaf Wrestling.
Yeah, for a long time he did work in Toronto. He traveled around though, as was you used to do the territories
Yeah.
and whatever. But one of the ways that you have to, if you're thinking about booking a professional sport, right, writing what you hope people will believe is a sport, Bob Backlund had been the champion from 78 to 83. And he was the most popular guy in that New York territory, that kind of early stage WWF. And you don't want Hulk Hogan to come in and beat him because now you have two good guys, right? Will people turn on Hogan for beating your longtime hero?
Thunderlips.
So you have what you call a transitional champion, a bad guy that wins the title from Backlund in dastardly fashion.
Must have been a backdoor job.
And that happened in November or December of 83. And then in January of 84, Hogan is now the conquering hero there to avenge Bob Backlund, right? And
Real
it's
American.
a little storytelling. So anyway, just interesting that he is the bad guy that kicks off that whole Hulkamania All-American thing that basically lasted the rest of the 80s, man.
See, and I give you lots of shots
Yeah.
about the wrestling thing.
Mm-hmm.
But sort of between 11 and, 14, 15, like if I was taking the bus, so my mom lived in Ottawa, my dad and I lived in Peterborough.
right.
And I'd be taking the bus back up and down the 7. And I would often grab a magazine, and you could get wrestling magazines.
Yep.
And they would have all
I know.
the rankings,
Sure.
and, from the different circuits. Like there was still all these
Territories, yeah.
Yeah, and so you're sort of going back and you're like, I don't know who these Von Erich guys are, but if they're not in the WWF, they're not legit. Right? And so, yeah.
Because that's the TV we got here. We didn't get
Yeah, of course.
the Minnesota territory or the Texas territory with the Von
Right,
Erichs.
or the Carolinas,
Yeah.
right? Big in the Carolinas. And so
That's right, man.
you had, because Kurt Hennig was down there, like there was all
Mm-hmm.
these people that came from those places, right? And so anyways, you're better with me with the 80s wrestling.
that era, yeah.
For sure you are, right? In terms of what's gonna really work, because that whole Maple Leaf Wrestling and some Stampede Wrestling, like
Yeah.
a bit of those too.
Sure.
right? You know, Abdullah the Butcher and Dino Bravo and all that. Like, that to me is when Roddy Piper was there.
Fucking
like that.
right, man.
That to me is sort of when I was like, "Ooh, I don't know what this is all about."
And every, whether it's a comic book or a movie or a TV show, whatever, every hero needs a villain. And the Iron Sheik was Hulk Hogan's first villain. So.
Well, and like I said, when he teamed up with, they were briefly the tag team champions as these sort of, these enemies of the state, or I can't remember what they were called.
And he circles back around in like 90-91 when Kuwait and the first Gulf War are going on. It's like, well, he's not from Iraq. Yeah, well, it's close enough. Let's get him back in. The whole country is feeling xenophobic right now.
He's wearing that Yasser Arafat hat,
Let's get an Arab or two out here to hate.
People do. Hey, man, if you're expecting most Americans to know the difference.
That was his whole point. Like someone, as
that guy's from Bahrain. That guy's, come on, man.
There was a Persian guy on Twitter who put up a thing that he's like, the Iron Sheik, everybody's putting these tributes on Twitter. He's like, the Iron Sheik taught me at a very young age how to make Americans hate me. You're like, okay, I guess that's useful information. But like, I guess it's a matter of perspective, right? Like that guy, to some Arab Americans or just Arabs, was one of the only representatives on TV. Now, yes, he was playing a villain, but there he was in popular culture, and maybe they related to him. I have no idea.
Well, I like he had the boots with the little curled toe. Like,
of course.
Like Aladdin. Or I guess something you're going to...
Anything you could do to make it more stereotypical.
Well, and if you thought if he was from Iran?
Yeah.
Well, and Iranians don't even see themselves as Arabs.
No.
They're not Arabs.
Persians. But like I said, he's close enough.
I know. I know. And
as far as
it's just one of those,
we know.
Yeah. And that's how far the world has come in 40 years, people.
Has it, though?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I left that open, like, you can figure that out or not.
Yeah. Where do you want to start, man? There's a bunch of different hockey notes here. I got one or two little things on the UFC we can get to. Why don't we kick it off? You're talking a little bit about the Jays. They've lost so far 2-3 to Minnesota, but that wasn't really the big story of the week. The week kicked off with Alek Manoah being sent down. We then fumbled through another 5 days of Anthony Bass bullshit. I don't know, man. The floor is yours. Which of those do you want to start with?
Well, the Bass thing is quick and easy. That
he's an idiot.
Well, and the Jays have sort of shown their ignorance a bit.
A bit?
Like, you had the opportunity last week when we talked about it to just waive the guy or do whatever you need to send him down for blank. And instead they wait till Pride weekend. And then they send him down saying, this is mostly a baseball decision. You're like, such bullshit. Like,
that apparently is about avoiding a PA objection, right? Or the Players Association saying to you, you can't get rid of somebody because of their political beliefs. Fine, his numbers suck. There you go. And they do. So
right.
He's out. But maybe it's not just that. Like, they defended him multiple times. So the first time Ross Atkins comes out and says, well, we believed his apology, which we covered last week.
Which we wrote.
You're not really the guy that he needs to convince. And then early this past week, they give him a chance in friendly media owned by the same company to come out and clear up his thoughts, and instead he doubles down. And then Ross Atkins comes out and on Thursday and has a presser that says, we really believe in this guy. We think he's going to make an effort, all these sorts of things. It's not as bad as it looks. And Bass comes out about 15 minutes later and triples down, going, no, actually, I still believe everything about it. I just agree I shouldn't have posted it. You're like, oh, a swing and a fucking miss, right? And you just made Ross look and so the next day, they're just like, fuck, whatever, we'll waive him. Because also it had come out, they were going to have him catch the first pitch on Pride Night on Friday. And apparently that had sort of been the idea of whoever was going to throw the first pitch, like this will be a signal that we're, willing to forgive and it'll be a nice moment. But the organization needed to recognize that was going to go terribly.
Right.
And they eventually on Friday just, we're out, we're done with this. But they could not have been any more tone deaf all the way through it, man.
Yeah, him or the organization?
Both.
Yeah. Well, and as you suggest, there's other pressures there, right? In terms of, all right, what can we do to rehabilitate this? Nope.
He's telling you he doesn't feel he needs to be rehabilitated.
Yeah, and so then you just sort of go, okay, well, I guess we've tried, and down you go.
Away you go.
Yeah, and away you go. And so you had to find some way to make it as palatable as possible to the PA or whatever it may be. But to me, his play alone is...
He's not good.
Yeah.
You can't suck at your job and be a distraction to the organization and expect to hang around.
Is that true?
That is true.
Okay, notice. Okay,
Yep.
understood.
Coming from TCA HR.
Yeah, there you go. Well, and not only that, Monday's a new week, man. Yeah. Monday's a new week, and so we're here to go.
It just could not have been bungled. And like when you announce that he's going to catch that first pitch, like you're putting the onus now on the LGBT community to forgive and forget. Like, look, we're pushing him out here in front of you. He's trying, but he's not trying. He's trying. 3 times he said, yeah, no, fuck these people, is basically his stance. And so, no, the onus has to be on him and on the organization to not make Pride Weekend about Anthony Bass's, whether it is his, I think I said on here, if he had been clearly out there making sincere apologies, he did meet with the head of Pride, if he was taking advantage of chances to be educated, whatever you want to call it, then maybe it would be a way to show a sincere effort. It was his idea. I want to be a part of this. I'm sorry for what I've done. Maybe. But he didn't do any of that. And so, no, you don't shove him down these people's throats on the one weekend a year you acknowledge their existence.
Well, and last year, it was a night. I'm not sure if they did a weekend last year, but it was certainly a Friday night game.
It sure seemed even this time. Like it was mostly about Friday.
And it was a huge success, though, last year. I can't, we'll wait and see how it shakes out from this year. But by all accounts, knowing people who were there, they said fabulous.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I chose that.
I don't know why you chose that word either.
But a good time was had, right? By all, right? And so, I think it's an easy move and it's a no-brainer, and it probably comes 7 days too late.
Yeah. And, I mean, if you're getting sent out for Mitch White to come up, who was getting just smashed around in the minors. Like, they weren't itching to call up Mitch White.
Yeah, okay, wait, you're sucking at 4 or 5 inning stints. How about we just drop you down to 1 inning stints?
Oh, you're still getting hammered. Bringing in the Mitch White flag. We're waving the Mitch White flag on this game.
Yeah, and that game on Saturday, and you're like, it's 5-3. And you're bringing in Mitch White. It feels like you've given up. Oh, wait, there's a 3-run homer. Yeah. Yes, we have given up.
Like I said, man.
It seemed very tight for you to
Mitch White flag.
For you to say, yeah, this game.
We're bringing in the gas can. We're burning it all down.
Exactly, gas can grilly. Where's he at? Instead, it's and there's a bunch there. I don't have a lot of faith in Simber. I don't have a lot of faith in.
Well,
Meza.
That Saturday game was a disaster. Like Bowden Francis was there to sort of be your innings eater, but like. He was starting to get hit. The fastball already had dropped like 2 miles an hour. I get why people were mad that they pulled him in favor of Adam Simber because Simber wasn't the guy. But if you had left him in there and he gives up that home run, now you're mad that you left him in too long and he's not a major league caliber guy.
It's not a win-win situation.
Right. But they didn't have many options, right? Like their top guys had all pitched on a couple straight days, and the real crime on that Saturday game was that as soon as Simber's struggling, you didn't get Romano up, and ask him, sorry, you're going to have to make a 5-out save tonight or whatever it is.
Yep.
They just let him go and burn the fucking house down, and not good, man.
Well, and the thing is, you came off of, and I know we'll lead into Manoah with this. You came out of that Houston series where Manoah gets the absolute flamethrower put to him in game 1, right? 1/3 of an inning, 7 runs allowed, just atrocious. Then you come back and you win 3 games, which were, 3-2, 3-2, 4-3, whatever it was. They were all sort of come from behind. It was equal parts luck, but you are still squandering 10 plus, double digits in terms of runners in scoring position. Like, it's a bit of a mirage, that 3 out of 4 from Houston. And
it did get you back on pace, I think, to 91 wins, and now you've pissed that back away, and you're with this series against Minnesota.
Yeah, it was now 4-1
Yeah.
in the fourth or the fifth, whatever we are,
Yeah.
for the Twins. And you are looking at it's the way they're losing games, right? You're in a position on Friday night against the Twins to you have the man at second and third with Springer and Espinal, nobody out. Mm-hmm. And I get you're facing a guy who can throw 104.8.
Yeah, fuck.
You need to make contact. You got three guys, and you're talking about Bichette, Guerrero, Belt, Chapman. Like, these are the four guys, and you're going, I just need somebody one of the first two guys to get something. And I don't care if hard contact into a glove means shit. You have squandered. You are us.
Well, it's funny though. It's got to be Bo, because Vladdy is hitting. For a while, it was just below Vlad numbers. Now it's below average numbers.
And lots of strikeouts.
And Chapman is hitting like a pitcher since May 5th, like in the 100s. It's been awful. And it looked great that Belt was suddenly now moved into the cleanup spot, where clearly they had hoped he would be able to get to. But then he comes up lame with a hamstring thing that doesn't look too bad, but he's out of the lineup right now. Like, it is thin.
And even with him there, he draws a lot of walks.
Yeah.
Right. And just so if you're looking for somebody in that 4 spot, you're looking for somebody who can.
Well, I'm putting him there ahead of Chapman right now.
Yeah. I know, but I'm just saying, if that's what you're leaning on.
It's just the rotation largely has been stellar. Yeah. And they can't hit. And I did not go into this season thinking that was going to be the issue.
And so when you look at the way, as soon as they didn't get anything out of that 9th inning, when you had second and third with nobody out, you know they're going to lose. Then it rolls into the debacle on the Saturday night that we just touched on. It's the way they're not scoring runs, and just the way they're losing is disheartening.
Yeah. Well, and against Minnesota, who's leading that division at 31 and 32, you're supposed to be better than these guys.
33 and 32 now coming into today's game. So that to me is, as somebody who I find it, I no longer look to them to go, okay, really, anything within 3 runs is easily, overtaken in an inning with this roster. It's not.
Not anymore.
I am not feeling, I feel like at 4-0 today, in the first inning, you're like, that game's over. Whether that proves to be true or not, it certainly is. I had no belief that this team wouldn't be able to score enough runs. All the questions were, is the bullpen good enough? Yeah. And what's going to happen with Barrios and Kikuchi?
Who have been largely fine, which is interesting too.
For guys in your 4-5 spot?
Yeah.
Perfect.
You mentioned Manoah, who has not been fine. He's now not sent to Buffalo, not sent to AA or single. He's right down to the Florida Complex League.
To the lab.
To basically be rebuilt. I take a little bit of issue with the way you describe his outing on Monday, because the one is like a perfect kind of bunt up the line, right? Right to third that if Chapman gets to, maybe that guy ends up out. There's an error by Vladdy at first base. He had... he should have been out of that first inning, and then the wheels came off. And this guy is clearly not in a place where he's able to recover from that right now. Yeah. And you wonder if he gets out of that first inning at 2-0 instead of whatever it might have been. Can he has sort of battled through some games here where he still manages to go 5, keep you close. It's not pretty, but he hangs around. And then he gets Minnesota on Saturday, who isn't supposed to be a strong lineup. He's not been good, and I think eventually this was probably going to come, but it is interesting to think that, a bounce or two the other way on Monday, and maybe he's still here this weekend making that start, and it's just the way it imploded around him after a couple things didn't go his way that they had to clearly, they don't want him to just go to Buffalo and work on, getting a little bit of confidence back. They clearly think you got to go all the way down, and we got to work through some technical things here, and depending on who you read, there's some talk that you may not see him again this season, right? Depending on how long this takes sometimes, maybe he goes down there and it takes 2 months and he's sort of back before the trade deadline. But this team looks a lot different without
your day one starter.
The guy you thought was going to be your ace this year. Yeah. And
in full disclosure, I was still eating dinner. I asked the assistant, I'm like, hey, score in the Blue Jays game.
Right.
7-0. top of the first. I'm like, okay. So
I guess I'll watch the hockey game.
yeah, I didn't see that first. So
Yeah,
I was
there was some bad breaks there
I was looking at the numbers
before the house
but they
burned
needed
down.
to send that guy down because there's no saying you let him out of the first inning at 2-0 that it's not imploding in the second. Like,
Sure.
it's not like it's a.
But now we're into a whole game of what if. And
Yep, for sure we are. But to me, that guy should have gone down at least a week before. Like, to me, the Jays, again, look at the Bass decision. They're late on some of these decisions.
Yeah.
He's not getting it done. Hasn't largely, outside of maybe one start, he hasn't had it.
No.
He hasn't had it. And then now you can clearly see him from week to week to week in his post games where he's pitched. Guy's got no confidence.
No, he's beaten down. He's feeling
Completely
it.
rattled. And this is a guy who that was part of his calling card.
Yeah.
Aggressive.
Being an asshole out there.
I love that.
Yeah.
Bulldog. Either leading the league in hit batters in the last 2 years because he doesn't mind throwing inside.
Yep.
And his natural action sort of to right-handers. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that fades up and in. And so, but he's that big, intimidating guy, and you're like, I love that about him. But he doesn't have any of that.
No, and like I was listening to our buddy Arden Zwelling on At the Letters and their podcast this week talk about, some of the numbers they've dove deep on, like a lot of people talking about the pitch clock and is it affecting his fitness. Well, his biggest issues are with the first batter of each inning. Those are where he hasn't even had time to get tired yet. Like,
Yeah.
It's an easy thing, and maybe that's part of it, but that's clearly not the biggest issue. There's something wrong technically, and this is going to be interesting to watch because even here in Toronto, and it happens in every organization, you've seen Halliday, you've seen Romero go back down, get rebuilt, and come up and be fine. Yeah, man, the Cologne and Eau de Chassin or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
But you've seen guys have to go all the way back down, get rebuilt, figure it out, and make their way back up. And that could happen. But there's also guys that go down and you just never hear from them again. Like, baseball is a funny business, sports in general, but like once you've sort of lost it and then you've lost your confidence, maybe it doesn't come back. Maybe he is never that number one guy again. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that is every bit as on the table right now as the Roy Halladay redemption story, right?
Yeah, and it was interesting. I can't remember who I was reading sort of last week when somebody brought that up, and they were saying, yeah, the difference with Halladay is he hadn't had the breakthrough at the major league level.
No, he wasn't already an ace and a playoff game one starter and a home opener
He was
starter.
not that before he got sent down to
that's
sort
right.
of totally retool.
And so what a mind fuck that would be.
Yeah.
I'm back in the lowest possible facing 18 and 19-year-olds that have just been drafted out of Venezuela or
You're Larry Walkers who just played hockey and have never really played baseball before. But yeah, that it's closer to Ricky Romero. So those who want to say, yeah, but look at Doc. Doc went down and came back and
it's not the same.
threw a complete perfect game and did Cy Youngs and yada yada. Yeah, it's closer to Ricky Romero, who had some physical issues when he went down too. But Ricky Romero was never Ricky Romero again.
No.
And so that is what you have to now. Manoah doesn't have the physical ailments. I think he may have some delivery issues.
Yep.
Right. So in terms of the physical side, but man, it's a nasty combo of that confidence on the mental side, which is really fucked. Like if you're up there and Schneider, I think, was saying, he's like, yeah, he's up there hoping for outs or hoping for strikes, right? And trying to place that ball. You're just going to get hammered, right? So I thought it was a good idea to send him down. Let him work on it in a different situation because we've seen over the past 2 months that he's the positives you see him making in between starts is not translating into actual results in game.
Yeah, like everybody's saying, his side sessions have been great, his bullpens have been great, and then he gets out there and it's not
Where's
there.
that at?
It's not there. So we'll see. That's going to be an interesting story and an important story. And one of the things, I actually traded a few messages with our buddy Scott MacArthur this past week, and we were more so talking about Anthony Bass, but his point is well founded. Maybe one of the reasons they were hanging on to Bass and were so reluctant to send down Manoah is this management group's been here since 2016, Ross Adkins since 2017, And they haven't done shit to bring you pitching depth, right? Like they've developed, obviously, some good players. They've made some good trades. But where's even the middling starter in the rotation? Like the number 4 guy that is our guy that we drafted and developed. Like you traded for Barrios, you signed Kikuchi, you signed Bassett. Yeah, exactly. Again, Gausman is a free agent signing, so Manoah is the only guy, and he's now down in the minors. Same thing in the bullpen. There's not much there that you drafted and developed, and that's a stain on this management group, who you and I both at one point were quite cold on, kind of warmed up to with the way they rebuilt and started spending some money. But there's no depth in either the bullpen or the rotation, and that's entirely on this management group.
Well, and you look at what we just saw last week with Houston. Like I think they said they are in second in that division, close to a wild card spot. Much easier division. I get it.
That's why it was important to win that series, because that's going to be the tie break if you two are fighting for that wild card.
Yeah, no
spot.
more playing games.
No.
But they have a pitching rotation of $13 million, I think, between their 5 guys. Right? I'm just saying.
Yeah,
in terms
they're dealing with some. Yeah.
And they have young guys, and they're working through that.
Yeah.
But to me, there is no young guys here. Just to your point.
Yeah. Let's move on and talk briefly, because I know neither one of us are in a really strong position to talk about MLS.
I beg to differ.
Lionel Messi.
Oh, sorry, I'm totally out.
Is headed to Inter Miami. Inter Miami CF too. What are you doing? I sort of understand that all these North American teams want to make themselves sound like club teams in Europe. And that's it. Like if you would Inter Miami FC, I'd go, all right. Like CF, I don't know what you're even trying to do there.
Well, it's like here in Ottawa with Atletico.
Yeah. But at least you know who owns that.
Yep.
It makes a little bit of sense. And maybe they're playing to, I don't know any Spanish. Like, are they playing to their Cuban population down there? Or I don't even know. But this is about as big of a name as there is in soccer coming to MLS. We've seen it years ago with
David Beckham?
No. Well, yeah. When he came to the LA Galaxy, yeah. But long before that, was it the
Pele?
US? Yeah, was it the US?
He was
FL
playing with the
or
New York.
But he was spent, right? Like by then he was done.
Yeah.
Messi is getting there, but he's still got some game left, and he apparently turned down like
$1 billion.
Yeah, from the Bonesaw League there in Saudi Arabia, and to come to and apparently like Apple TV, who owns their TV rights, the league itself, like there was a bunch of people splitting the cost of getting Messi because it's good for the league. All kinds of people across MLS, like all the teams, their Miami games are now instantly sold out, and the secondary market has gone through the roof. Like you and I aren't guys that are lining up to see him come to Toronto or whatever.
100%.
But this has apparently already made an impact, and just in the 24 hours after he signed in Miami, that team's Instagram page gained 4.2 million followers. Yeah. It is now the most followed North American sports franchise on that platform, more than any NFL team,
Suck
NBA,
it, Dallas Cowboys.
All of it. And I wonder, like, neither one of us are any more likely to sit down and watch an MLS game tomorrow than we were before. But like, is it reasonable to assume that this will? Is this just exciting for soccer fans that are already here, or is there a chance that this will help grow the league?
Well, as you said, it is comparable to Pele. I want to say it was Cosmos. It puts the league even further. Now that I say that, the league is much more established than that one was.
Yes.
But it's where it benefits Inter Miami versus where it benefits MLS. I think MLS as a whole really stands to benefit incrementally more than Inter Miami.
Right.
Yeah, I know you, as you said, they're now the most followed and their games are sold out, but there's only so much that they can reap the benefits of.
Yeah.
Whereas, when Messi rolls into Toronto, if that game wasn't sold out already, guess what? It's jacked up through the roof in terms of the secondary market. The people who are going to benefit from it are likely the teams not in Miami. I would suggest those were the guys who stand to make the most. So they should all be kicking in and paying part of Messi. Because if there isn't somebody coming off of a World Cup gold, championship, who's now showed up, who was the MVP, I believe, of the World Cup, like he is in the back nine of his career.
Sure.
But he is still the biggest name in soccer. And he's now playing in the MLS.
Yeah. Like, this is going to be huge, as you said, for Kansas City, right? For Colorado,
Seattle.
for anybody, right, that is going to have this guy come in and play there. A couple more sold-out dates. I did read a couple people who know far more about this, which doesn't take much than I do, suggesting this would be the time for the league to pounce. You've got some attention right now. See, like, maybe soften, those cap rules that you have a little bit. Maybe spread some money around and see who else you can get to jump right now, right? And see if you can kind of capitalize on that hype and get a couple more of these big names to come over. And they are strict, and it's an interesting system they have. Like, the cap is sort of controlled by the league.
Yeah.
And the money is all controlled by the league as opposed to by the individual teams, which is interesting. But it does mean you can kind of tweak as you go a little bit more if you want to, and they have done that in the past. The TFC just brought over a couple of big Italian names here, and just before this season, it hasn't exactly panned out. That's been a disaster this year. But maybe this is a time where, hey, look, Messi just came, and see what other big names might be willing to go, yeah, I could see myself playing in LA or New York or whatever. And if you throw enough money at it, maybe this is a chance on top of the Messi thing to take a step forward.
I completely agree with you, but the money is still so big unless you are loosening those cap restraints.
You'd have to be.
In terms of the money made in Europe between the 5 big leagues over there, it's you'd have to. And so again, I don't know what Messi is making, but there's got to be sponsorships.
Well, it is interesting to hear. That's right. That your TV deal and your whatever are all kicking in to make this happen because they know it's good. It's not just the league. It's not just the team.
Right. Which is an absolute cap circumvention.
Of course it is.
And so heads up MLSE.
But as you suggest, maybe you called the rest of the league and everybody said, yep, bring that guy in. Like, it's going to be good for business.
I'm willing to use a couple million of my cap space. Because I know...
Well, maybe not my cap space, but my dollars. To sell those tickets.
To sell those tickets, which means beer sales, which means...
everything. Jerseys.
Everything goes exponentially up, right? So, as I said, I firmly believe the league itself benefits greatest from his presence. But in terms of, does this start a rush? Unless you are willing to have other clubs circumnavigate the cap like Inter Miami is clearly doing.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how you turn down $1 billion to take whatever. Like, even if you look at Beckham's 25 mil, which is what he signed 4 years, 25 million, way back in the day.
Yep.
I don't know how this works, how you can compare to go.
You're going to have to get closer to
that. You know what? That $1 billion, I'm going to go over here because the Chicks is hot in South Florida.
Can't wait to get to Fort Lauderdale. Yes.
Yeah. So I have a bunch of questions. But I think there's a bunch of people at the MLS who are just rubbing their mitts like, yes, guy.
Yep.
This is good for me.
Agreed, man. Speaking of leagues with funky caps and maybe doing their best to gain attention wherever they can, the CFL fired up this past weekend. I would suggest to the good listener, if you haven't had a chance, go back and check out episode 1125. GM of the Red Blacks, Sean Burke, was in here. Had an interesting chat with him. And interesting guy. Not a... I was hoping to talk a little bit more about his time in Oshawa with him, but he kind of grazed right over it, as a lot of people do, I think.
For sure, man. Yeah. 2 years is enough, baby.
Yeah, right.
I'm out of here.
So that is episode 1125 at talkcanaudio.com or wherever you're hearing us right now. Go back and check that out. But
hey, just quickly, saw a picture. I was out visiting my mom a week ago. Came across a photo. I don't know where it was. I was out someplace. And I am wearing a dark pink long sleeve Varney t-shirt.
Wow.
This is sort of 89, 90 probably. Okay. So it's like an aggressive salmon, I want to call it.
Yep.
Long sleeve,
Winterberry.
Long sleeve Varney. and on my head, I'm wearing a green starter Rough Riders cap.
What a look.
Which... Honestly, you're like, who the fuck told that guy that dark pink and that Ryder green starter cap was a good.
The 80s was a crazy time,
Oh
man.
my God, man. And I'm like, Mom, can we just rip that up? That is terrible.
Not until it's made its way onto the Instagram page.
Yeah. So anyways, it was your weird caps. That's my, as somebody who was born in southern Saskatchewan.
Right.
Had a little bit of Green Rider allegiance for a bit, but man, I don't know what I was thinking in that day, but carry on. Back to you, Matt.
Thank you. I'm glad you took us on that little, I'd like to see this photo, to be honest with you. Look, it was an interesting weekend. I didn't watch all of it. I did watch the Ottawa game. Yeah, it looked a lot like last year, man.
Oh, man.
The great defense and Louis Ward. And that was about it, right? Out there kicking field goals for us. It wasn't a great game. Yeah, Nick Arbuckle.
Buckle up, Calgary. We're coming for you.
Yeah, we'll see them Thursday. Then there's an off week, and I think you're kind of hoping that by week 4, it's Jeremiah Masoli back under center. I don't know. They played all right, but yeah, it to me, it looked an awful lot like the same things we saw last year, which was not supposed to be what happened here, right? They turned over a lot of the roster.
Yeah.
And
well, it's a lot to still like.
Sure.
Except for the 19 for 35 and 175 yards.
Whatever it was, 4 or 5 turnovers.
0 TDs, 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's a fucking horrible stat line.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you try and be reasonable. They're still without their starting
I am not
QB.
reasonable.
No, I know. But
yeah.
you can't be patient a whole lot longer, right?
Especially when this is Montreal. That's
a team you're supposed to get ahead
of. You got to beat those guys.
Yeah.
And then you and sadly for Ottawa, it's not like they had Calgary at home first. All the hype of the preseason and ready to go. We're doing this. No, you have the home opener the week after you had fresh, warm loaf in your bed against Montreal. And now you got to roll into the home opener. Fucking worst case scenario.
Yeah, and your crowd's already like, here we go again, right? It was bad. The one game I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at that was the most interesting for me was Winnipeg-Hamilton, where
42-31, or it was.
Yeah, but at half it was like 31-4. The Bombers just blowing the doors off Hamilton, and I flipped that one, going, we're done here, right?
I have no time for that.
And by the time, the fourth quarter's winding down, I circle back and Hamilton's right there within 10. So I don't know what the Bo Levi Mitchell era is going to look like in Hamilton, but it was a bit of a shootout, but just sort of they each took a half as opposed to going back and forth, right? So I don't know how discouraged I'd be if I was Hamilton, but Winnipeg at this point maybe let their guard down in the second half, but still maybe looks like the class of the league again this year.
That's that scoreboard sort of run of play kind of thing, right? You sort of have to go with the first half when you go. If I want to wonder which side of that half is the real deal, I'm leaning more towards the first half.
I think you're probably right.
But that 25-15 BC Calgary game in the season opener, followed by the 19-12, whatever it is, like that 42-31 score. Give
me more of that.
That's what the CFL used to be.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if the question is we're at a historic lull in terms of quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
It just seems to be scoring is down, and this is anecdotal. I'm not going to bring any hard facts here, but it really, look at those three games that we've seen. Now, you will all have seen Saskatchewan, Edmonton by the time the show gets released.
Sunday afternoon.
But those are probably 2 bad teams. So I can really only, it's going to be a super high score or super low.
Yeah.
Scoring seems down, right? When you look around at the quarterbacks and you're like, I don't know what's happening here, right? It's the league is sort of in a spot where it's, you got to do something, man. You got to move. You got to show me, and not just me. I think there's a lot of people
but mainly me.
Well, I'm the one that really I care about.
Yeah.
Everyone else, it's fine.
Right.
Opinions.
Sure.
But this is where it's at, right? Like this league, to me, you could not, if you're in Ottawa, and we'll double back to your.
Yeah.
This is a worst case scenario in terms of Nick Arbuckle coming back, and you're like, yeah, okay, but now he's he's not under the Lapolice system, and clearly Lapo had no faith in him, and
Yeah, he's got a fresh
start, and the Kahari Jones
Yep.
regime is here, and you've had a full preseason, and you've got this all down. Yet you still have virtually more interceptions than completions, and yeah, I'm exaggerating.
Yeah.
but it still seemed that's the way it feels, right? Like I watched part of the
They just couldn't get going.
part of the second quarter, part of the third quarter, into the early fourth, and you're like, okay, they put a little drive together, they had a little something going, and then he throws that fucking interception into double coverage, like a
Yeah, they're in the fourth,
the
right?
big, and the big bomb, and you're like, what are you doing forcing that ball into that?
Right.
Like I went to see 14-year-old girls flag football where the quarterback never looks anybody off. And you're like, she's I'm looking right at that guy. That's my girl right there. I'm gonna throw. And then you're like, psh, oh, it got picked off.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, I can't believe. And he like a 14-year-old DB's looking and go, all right, they're not looking anywhere else. Guess where the ball's going? Nick Arbuckle.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you.
Rough. 14-year-old girl.
Is it wrong?
TV. No. Well, I guess, right? No, you're not wrong because you've selected him. I don't want to judge these guys until I see Masoli. And I wonder...
The O-line looked better.
The O-line did look better. The D looked great, as it did most of last year, too.
35 yards rushing. Eesh.
Yeah.
That's
Well, when you're not afraid of the passing game, like they're just going to...
stack the box.
Right. So I wonder, too, though, about Masoli, like what version are you getting of him? He obviously didn't have a full camp the way he would have wanted to have. Like I think most of us assumed when this happened last year, he's gone for the year, but he'll be back for training camp and everything will be fine. And there was some complications there. There was some infection issues, as Berkey told us there last week. It took him a lot longer to get back. And so now you wonder, when you do get him back, what version of him are you getting? And so I'm a little concerned about that, but I don't really want to get too worked up until I see them with him under center.
And it does work out. He was through parts of the preseason. He was taking
he was practicing.
And with the first unit.
Yep.
And you go, okay, we got Montreal, which we should beat.
Yes.
Then there's Calgary and a home opener in Calgary. No Bo Levi. It's going to be a slightly downgraded team. And then we have the bye. So they have this opportunity to go, if we can go 1-1,
get to 1-1 here
in the first two games, have that bye. You give yourself 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you start with Masoli fresh, sort of in week 4, and you see where we're at. But man, you lose to Calgary in the home opener. Yeah. You're close to a death spiral. I know you have 16 games left, but man, that is not good.
I guess we'll have to wait and hope that the East is shit again.
Yeah, well, I think that's a given.
And that's on the table, yeah, for sure.
Ottawa needs to muscle up, and they really, I can only speak for me, but I know there is a section of the fan base here in Ottawa that says, show me.
100%.
You got to show me, man, because we have seen underwhelming results for the past 2 years, straddling the pandemic, right?
Underwhelming results, straddling the pandemic. You see, former President Trump's got himself into a little trouble. He's been indicted again in Florida. The only thing I really wanted to touch on with this was just the description of how they found these documents. He's got boxes in a shower at the resort and, one up on a stage at a ballroom and just tucked away in his office. Like, just, they made it, there was a picture, I guess, of one of the boxes just tipped over with documents spilling out. Like, it reminds you probably of Sean Burke's Durham College dorm room, right? Just shit all over the place.
Yeah.
And you're just like, the description of these documents, man, are nuclear secrets and capabilities of our allies and our enemies. And what he's like, I'm fucking keeping that.
One's got a ring from a coffee stain on it. And you're like, what is happening here?
And I guess there's a tape of him being like, hey, this is classified, but look at this. Like, look how crazy this is. And you're like, I've never seen a president more willing to admit on video, this is me committing crimes. Let's commit some crimes together while I record myself committing crimes. Well, we're criming.
Yeah, but you know what? it's not going to fucking prevent him from being the Republican candidate.
No, I know. And he's going to skate. I don't think this guy's going to jail. I think everything out there says what we've always known. That guy's a fucking crook. And yet he's got Secret Service protection for life. Are they really going to put him in prison?
With the Secret Service agents.
Right. And would this, as you just alluded to, did that change the mind of a single Trump voter?
Not a chance.
There's like, well, he probably deserved to have them. Like,
planted!
Yeah.
It was planted! He didn't do that. They put that shit there.
Boxes stacked around the house of.
I love in an unused shower.
Yeah, and in a bathroom like. Look, every guy knows the launch codes when he's sitting on the shitter to drop bombs, right? Like, you don't need them written out in front of you.
They're good to go. They're good to go.
Man, it just was wild to see this come out. And like some of it, like I'm reading and I'm like, that's chilling. But there's a party that's also like, this is ridiculous that we've even gotten this far. Like you can't have nuclear secrets tucked under the barbecue and on the patio, right? Like,
yeah, for easy reading while you're, something's got to soak up that sausage grease as it rolls down through the. I haven't put the little foil.
Here, take Japan's defense capabilities.
Exactly.
Wipe your ass with that.
And the correspondence. Yeah, I and the thing is, I can only imagine, as entrenched as they are in the States, that this does zero to move the needle for anybody. Those who thought he was a crook,
yeah,
I told you.
Yeah.
Those who support him, plant.
Yeah.
Right.
They've weaponized the Department of Justice. Stop.
Right. And you've become, most people in between have just become numb to all of it. And you're like, what does this mean? You just stop giving me, he's been indicted, he's been charged.
Well, apparently there's more to come. Like he's been charged in New York, now charged in Florida. There's almost certainly charges coming in August in Georgia, and D.C. will also almost certainly.
Yeah, but you have these people saying, yeah, this will not keep him from being the president. No. You're like, oh, well, I don't understand. Why
people
would
just calling out for a dictator at this point?
Why would it not? And you go, the guy's a criminal. The guy is actually convicted. And you're like, what?
That doesn't bother me.
He's been impeached twice or whatever the deal is. And you're like, nah, it's still electable. You're like, at what point? What do you need to do to not get elected? Be a black woman?
Trash the latest Kid Rock album.
Okay, but this is it, right? Go against the NRA? I have no idea.
There you go, yeah.
Like, what is it that makes you unelectable in the States?
As you said, probably being a black woman. Had to be selected as the vice president.
Yeah.
That's the only way Kamala Harris is getting that gig. Like, I'm sorry, that's just the reality of America. They're not voting for.
And I'll be fascinated to see how this whole thing shakes loose with the Mike Pence running. And you're like, that guy has zero chance.
No, he doesn't. He has
zero chance. Like, what are you doing, man?
You saw members of the Republican Party walking through the halls of the Capitol yelling, "Hang Mike Pence." Hi, I'd like to have your vote, please.
Any chance? Any chance? No.
You got no chance.
Yeah, how about a flyer? Can I at least just read it? Give me a chance. We can talk afterwards. No. Okay, I'm still holding it in my hand. It's glossy. It's color. No, zero. It's DeSantis, and how about that? That everyone else is like, can DeSantis? Can he beat?
I don't know. There was a protest out in front of Disney World there in Florida with signs with his face on it and the N-word all over it and whatever, marching in front of Protect Our Children, like all this nonsense.
Yeah, well, and that's all I'm saying is that's the person.
That's the reasonable. Yeah. Well, he's not in jail.
He hasn't been convicted.
Right.
Oh my goodness. What a mess.
It's true, man. All right, we got a little hockey to talk about. We got a little fight to talk about. A little fight. First, we got a little beer to talk about. What'd you grab this time, man?
I'm back to staying with the lake on the mountain. This is Maggie's Wheat.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's not apostrophe S. It's like multiple Maggie's Wheat. It's weird.
That is weird a little, man.
I'm not sure what's happening here, but Again, another part of the gift, so I'm just going to give this a go. I don't usually lean towards the meat.
The meat.
Yeah, that's what that
the
is.
meat beer.
That is what I said. Love some meat. But the wheat, I'm going to give this a pull. Comes in at 4.8, so
Okay.
it's a nice,
Coast home on the end of the pod.
Yeah, we'll see, right? I went from a 5.3 to a 4.8. I think you're getting even more boozy over there. How was the end of that first? Did you like that Fenland East Coast?
I did. Like we said off the top, I thought they were kind of growing into it a bit. It was nice and juicy, right? You sort of expect that out of a New England, right? So I enjoyed that, man.
Okay, so this year, it's a little bit of that yeasty, wheat forward, as you'd expect in a wheat beer, but mild enough. It's subtle enough that it's not making me recoil,
Right.
which quite often any of your Heffenweisens or any of those sorts of things, it's not bad.
Okay.
It's not bad. It seems easy drinking and subtle. And so I would say the malt forward of the English ale in the first one was good. It was easy drinking and subtle. I would say so far these are the first two beers I've ever had from this brewery, but subtle is quite often, to me, is better. So if you can keep it in that range, unless, of course, it's a West Coast IPA, which you want punch in the face kind of hoppiness. Not bad, these two beers. What do you got over there?
So I am having something new from our friends over at Nita, at least new to me. This is either the OMA or the OMA. It's a Northeast IPA. We've both had the OPA a few times.
We have.
The Ottawa Pale Ale. And so I assumed at first this was a takeoff on that, but there's nothing in the description or on the website that suggests what this means, what this stands for. So I'll have to ask our friend Andy. But it is, like I said, it's a New England IPA coming in at 6.5%.
Beefy.
Which I didn't know when I grabbed it. It's not.
That's all right.
It'll be fine. It's not like we're doing two shows here today. So we'll see what that's all about. Like I said, this one is new. The last time I was checking out some stuff from Nita, this jumped out because I don't think I'd seen it there before. So we'll check it out. I want to talk just briefly before we get to the NHL about Saturday night's UFC card. And it was looking pretty thin, so I didn't buy it. But our buddy Bunda hooked me up.
Yeah.
As he often does.
When's the last one you did buy, though?
2-3 months ago. It's been a little slow the last couple cards.
Yeah.
They haven't really been worth. So I didn't really want to buy it, but there was enough there. The co-main event I thought was going to be really good, and that was Charles Oliveira taking on Beneil Dariush. And Dariush had been undefeated for a while now. He was on the come, and Charles Oliveira
Suddenly defeated,
yeah. Charles Oliveira just lost the title last fall to Islam Makhachev. This is obviously in the lightweight division, and so it was going to be interesting to see how he rebounded because he had been champ there for a while and sort of owned that division. And look, he finishes off Dariush in the first round with a knockout about 4 minutes in, and it's a bit of a bummer for Dariush because he keeps getting close. Like, he gets this close. Like, whoever had won this fight was likely going to get the next shot at Islam Makhachev in Abu Dhabi in the fall. And Dariush had been on the run and looked like this was his opportunity. And he stumbles at the finish line again. And again, against a guy like Oliveira. It's no shame, but it's rough for him. This is going to take him a while to get back, right? Because there's a fight in July, I believe it is, Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier. And I would imagine if Poirier wins that, which I would bet on him doing, he'll be next in line for whoever wins this Oliveira-Makhachev.
Sorry, you think Poirier is...
Yes.
Okay.
So you're sort of quite a ways off if you're Dariush before you even get close again, right? Like, we're talking middle of next year if you go and win maybe 2 more fights to get back there. So this moves Charles Oliveira a little higher on the list of all-time wins in the UFC. And I know you haven't followed it as closely lately, but we're talking about all-time. There's names on this list you will know. And if you're going to be on the list of guys who have, won the most fights in the UFC, longevity, pretty important, right? You have to have been around for a while. I got the top 5 here, and I just wonder if you want to take a stab at any of these names.
All-time wins?
All-time wins in the UFC.
So I know Oliveira's around 22. Am I right? 22?
Charles Oliveira is in 4th place with 22 wins.
Okay. So is Jose Aldo in there?
He is not.
Is Frankie Edgar in there?
He is not.
Is George St. Pierre in there?
George St. Pierre is not.
Okay. So bad start, Rob.
Yeah.
Let's just
Come on. No, but names like, holy fuck, I can't believe that guy's still in here or still doing this, right? Like, the Cowboy Man. Come on.
Cerrone.
Donald
Cerrone
Cerrone is in 3rd. He's hanging out at, where is he at? 23.
20. So I'm missing 1 and 2?
And 5.
Yeah, well, I've already and again I'm sort of leaning towards older guys, but it's no, I don't know how.
Okay.
Help me out.
Number 1 is Jim Miller with 25.
Wow, Jim Miller, you could have given me 1,000 guesses
To be number 1.
and I would not have come up with Jim Miller.
Andrei Arlovsky is also at 23 wins in the UFC.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Damian Maia is at number 5.
See, and again, these guys, all those guys.
Yeah, they're in your window when you were watching, right? That's why I thought you might might have a swing at this.
But none of them
Legends.
None of them are legends.
No, Oliveira's probably the best guy in that group.
But yeah.
Damian Maia had a nice career, as did Cerrone, but
See, but to me, Maia was always that guy in the welterweight division who was, he'd take a run and he'd be a 1 or 2 seed and then sort of fade away, right?
Yeah.
And then come back. And he just, again, longevity, Cerrone, by the end of it, Cowboy, hang it up, buddy.
So we'll hit this quick, and I don't know if you want to subject yourself to it again. This is Donald Cerrone. Charles Oliveira also moves up the all-time list for all-time finishes.
Guys who are above him, or where is he in the all-time finishing list?
He is 2nd. So I have the top 5 here of finished fights, knockouts or submissions.
Is Anderson Silva in there?
Anderson Silva is in there at number... Oh, no, he's not. Vanderlei Silva is in there at number 4.
Okay. So that's who I meant. Did I say Anderson?
You did say Anderson.
No. I totally meant...
Of course.
I totally meant this fighter.
Nobody picks Vanderlei when they could pick Anderson.
How about Gabriel Gonzaga?
No. He has a sweet one, but...
I'm just throwing that out there as Chuck Liddell.
No.
Are any of them older guys?
Yes.
Yeah? How about BJ Penn?
No.
How about, let's go with submission guys. How about Damian Maia?
No.
This is great.
Honestly.
This is great audio.
Donald Cerrone at number 4. Guy's just out there finishing shit. So Vanderlei Silva, is at number 3. And like I said, Charles Oliveira is number 2 with 20 finishes out of 23
That's awesome.
wins. What a fucking legend, man. Yeah. And number 1, Mirko Krokop at 21.
Okay, the opposite side of that, Gabe.
Yeah, exactly. The recipient of the Gonzaga finish. So that'll be interesting to see. It looks like Oliveira did call out Makhachev after his fight, saying, I'll come to your house, I'll go to Abu Dhabi and do it. And I'm sure that's where they want to have Makhachev fight next, so that'll probably be in the fall. But maybe the biggest story to come out of this is Amanda Nunez announces her retirement after she just dummied Irina Idala. No.
Yeah, well, I saw there was some 50-44s. It was a UD, right?
50-44, 50-44, 50-43. Just a dummying, right, of an opponent that is getting a title shot. Now, I know she got that because of an injury, but she had been on the come. And so at the end of this, Nunez lays down her 2 championship belts and lays down her gloves and says, I'm done. And she has beaten everyone there is to beat. And, at some point, how do you keep getting excited, right? How do you keep doing
motivated?
This? Yeah. And she clearly did here because it wasn't even close. Those scores are...
You'd love a finish, though.
Sure. I mean, that's fair enough.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna piss on her for
you're not. She'll kill you.
It's a 135 and 145.
135 and 140. Now, interesting, the 145 division is retiring with her. There wasn't a lot happening there. There was nobody left, to fight at that division. It was already kind of a weak division to begin with, and so she had mainly been defending that 135 bantamweight title.
It's a big woman, though, 145. Yeah. If you're cutting to get to 145.
Right, and I think that's why there's just not enough there, right? So they're going to retire that division for now. But when you talk about the all-time greats in the UFC, like, she's beaten all of them on the women's. Like, everyone who has ever held one of those two titles, she's beaten. So it's not just that she's cleaned out, a bunch of nobodies. You're talking Miesha Tate and Ronda Rousey and Holly Holm and Shayna Baszler and Chris Cyborg and
yeah.
Shevchenko. Like, at some point, there's nobody coming, right? There's no great up-and-comer that I'm sort of waiting for that's going to make me a ton of money.
Well, she's going to go to start running IBM or whatever, and I keep taking the paycheck to knock somebody's head off.
I guess, man. So she's 35 and just like, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah. So like I said, I don't know what future she has in terms of prospective employment, but and at 35, you are in age brackets past your physical prime.
Has a young kid now and her wife's pregnant again.
Yeah.
So, you move on to other things around your life that you build your kind of. So I got one more list of top fives here for you.
Because I've killed it, Matt,
exactly.
So keep bringing it to me.
Most title fight wins, whether you were the champion or fighting for the championship. Most wins in championship fights in UFC.
It's top 5. We got to have GSP. Has got to be in there.
GSP is in there at number 2. He has 13.
It's low, eh?
I guess it's.
Yeah, but 13. Yeah,
second place.
No, I know, but just in terms of a guy who was 22 and 2.
He kept disappearing, right?
Yeah. 13. So how about I'm going to take another run back to Chuck Liddell.
Nope.
Because he was killer for
Leave him alone.
Yeah, no, exactly. Leave the faux hawk alone. Yeah, you know what? Let's not even bother.
Anderson Silva is at number 5 with 11.
Okay.
Amanda Nunez is at number 4, tied with him.
Is another one a female as well?
No.
Okay.
Number 3 is Demetrius Johnson at 12.
Oh.
Then, like I said, GSP at 13.
Or whatever his
and
deal
at number
was.
1, John Jones with 15.
Oh, see, John Jones off my radar.
Well, see, because he kept disappearing and like he's been gone for so long, and but
gone. I've been gone. So
I knew you were going to do that because if you didn't, I was going to.
Okay.
So anyway, huge hole in that division now. I don't know what you do. Maybe Holly Holm is next. Juliana Pena was the woman who had beaten Amanda last year. Maybe she gets another run at it, but. Just a huge hole on the women's side of things now. It's probably the best ever retires. So we'll see what's going to happen there. We can talk a little hockey like we always do. Start where the crowd wants to talk about, man. The Columbus Blue Jackets have had a busy week. They pull off a couple of trades, one of them to bring in Ivan Provorov from the Flyers just a week after hiring Mike Babcock. It's quite a culture they're building there in Columbus. And the other one is a deal to get upcoming free agent Damon Severson from the New Jersey Devils. And essentially they trade a third-round pick to New Jersey to just get that deal done. Sign the 8 years times, I think it's 6.25 for us, and then we'll make the trade, as opposed to us waiting for him to go to free agency and then we can only give him 7 years. And
or have to outbid somebody else for him.
True enough. And so you sort of wonder what it is they're building there, right? Like last year, they clearly, when they brought in Goodbranson and Goudreau, they weren't planning on being a lottery team. They thought they were going for it. And they did get hit with some injuries, but they were also just shit. And so they're not prepared to be shit again, I don't think. So they go out, they make these trades on the blue line. These would be Babcock-type guys.
Babcockian?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know if he can talk to them yet, right? Like technically they're not signing him till July 1st, but
Is MLSE still paying Babcock?
Yeah.
No, then
for
you can't talk to him.
a couple more weeks.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but those are interesting moves, man. And I guess the main thing I wanted to talk about with that is what it is they're trying to do there, especially on the right side of that defense, because they have now up the right side Goodbranson and Severson for at least 3 more years each. Obviously, Severson is longer than that. And they have Adam Boquist sitting there who's ready to play. And more importantly, the reason I bring it all up is David Juracek, their top prospect, right? Like, this guy was king shit coming into World Juniors, and I think everyone expects him to be good, but he's a right side guy too. And you sort of wonder, like, I get improving the blue line, but you've almost sort of, it's going to be him or Boquist who's blocked. Yeah. Or
yeah. It's the good Branson. I like Severson. He hears this a lot.
Yeah.
It's the good Branson for 3 more years, I think.
Yeah.
That is absolutely going to be, what are you going to do with that guy making 4 and change?
Clearly was just Goodrow's buddy, right? Like,
down the line in terms of guys who are...
He's a problem right now.
He's a problem right now. He's a problem when he signed him last year.
But I mean, even in terms of getting Boquist and Juracek in.
Yeah, and that's all I'm saying is, how do you feel about a 6, 7, 8 defenseman making 4 and change?
I don't feel very good about him, man.
No, I'm not liking it at all, man.
His Zaitsev just kicking around here. It's different style, but...
Second round pick can make that go away.
Sure, somebody else's problem now.
Chicago. But yeah, it's they have Werenski, who was gone for most of last season. And it's interesting what that looks like. I don't know what they're going to do with Merzliki in net there.
Yeah, Merzliki.
That is not a great sign. They're bound to get another bound. They are absolutely going to get another high draft pick.
Yeah, got the third round.
Yeah,
I said last week it was 4. It turns out it's 3.
3. See, I was citing you from last week's show.
Don't do that.
No,
That's a terrible lead to follow.
That comes down to the whole Jets trading off Perfetti.
Right. Oof. We did like 10 minutes on that trade that never happened.
They are interesting. You are looking at a division with Carolina, New Jersey, right away, those two. Mm-hmm. Good luck in terms of where you're jumping up to.
Yeah.
The Rangers, clearly not ready to go away. It's interesting, right? That is a shot across.
What is Pittsburgh going to be? What is Washington going to be?
Correct.
What are the Islanders going to be?
You know where Philly's going to be.
I do.
And so it does come down to, it's a shot across the bow of the Atlantic Division, right? Yeah. Whoever's going to be in that 4th spot, you're going to have to muscle up, because Columbus will be better.
Yep.
And I think even without these changes, even without Provorov and Severson, they were going to be better.
Yes.
Just in terms of being healthier. You got guys like Johnson and Sillinger a year older. Mm-hmm.
Hopefully Laine bounces back. Goudreau.
See, that's the guy you just sort of look at it and you go,
yeah, I have no idea.
What is going to happen?
Could score 22. Could score 45.
Yeah, no, this is exactly right. And so you just sort of, and what will Babcock be like in terms of his reintroduction?
Yeah, I forgot about him. Laine scoring 22.
Yeah.
But he'll block a lot of shots this year.
Well, and when you are talking about, and you are the person to talk about in terms of right shot on right sides,
yes,
left shots on left sides, and never the two shall meet.
Right.
And so, is he one of those guys that's likely to lean on Goodbranson as, I like big guys?
Yeah, he's going to have an opportunity.
Yeah, because I like big guys, and I think that's the DJ Smith thing.
And I cannot lie.
Yeah, I like big butts. It is a lie. But yeah, I just, you go, yeah, there's some nice pieces if you can look past that whole Provorov thing.
Yeah.
But
Babcock will.
Yeah, of course he will. Of course he will.
Let's talk. Go ahead, sorry.
No. I'm just, it'll be very interesting to see what that looks like, because they were already going to be better.
Yep.
So you've now got a nice depth on defense that was sort of unlooked for. And then you have some maturing younger prospects up front. It will be interesting depending on what happens in goal and Babcock.
Pierre-Luc Dubois has apparently informed the Jets what we all already knew. He's not re-upping long-term. He'd like to move on. I assume most teams will be pretty hesitant because we're all just assuming he's headed to Montreal in a year when his contract is up. Montreal is apparently engaged, but again, why would you give up much? No one.
Zero chance.
We're
man.
rebuilding right now. We'll wait another year, and he'll come to us for free. What I thought was interesting was,
and I'll have to pay him less in a year because he wants to be here.
right, and the reports circulating right now, though, are that he would like $9 million per season.
Let's get the fuck out of here.
You know how I feel about centers, that's where you build. That's what you. But this is a guy who is a 60-point center who has never had 30 goals in his career and is pretty good defensively, but not good enough that he's ever in that Selke discussion. So
Right.
a useful piece, but $9 million. We're I guess everything's going to have to be adjusted here. We are getting ready to talk about the cap exploding and all these sorts of things. But are you, even if you're Montreal or are you interested in Pierre-Luc Dubois at $9 million? And if not, what would you give him?
7.5.
Okay.
That's the ceiling.
Yeah.
For as you said, a 60-point two-way center, 7.5. Man, I'm willing to give him a little bump on the. Nah, come on. And you're talking about a guy who's talked his way out of two teams.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if
Maybe it's you.
Yeah, well, exactly. And if you look around and you don't know who the asshole in the room is,
Yeah.
it's you,
definitely
man.
you.
It's you. And so, I don't
I've
care.
made that calculation a time or two.
Yeah, in this room. And if you,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if that guy ends up where he wants to be, you're still a dickhead. You're a dickhead, and how does that manifest itself in your place of choice?
I do wonder, like, I don't know that he's married to just Montreal. I assume that's what's
I
going to
hope
happen.
not. If he wants $9 million, he needs a little bit of a bidding war.
I wonder, I don't know if they'll be back this year, but his contract ends next year. Are Krejci and Bergeron both about to clear out of Boston, and would they consider?
They still don't have the room. I don't have their cap.
Not
friendly.
this year.
Okay.
But when he's an unrestricted free, like this year, he's only making whatever. I don't know if they could afford to bring him in or not. They're going to be tight up against it. They almost need Krejci and Bergeron to play because they have those bonuses from last year.
I was going to say they have leftover money from this year that
Yes.
will apply to next year, even without those.
Right.
guys.
So it probably doesn't work this year. As you said, I don't have his contract in front of me right now. Maybe he'd fit, maybe he wouldn't. But next year, if he wanted 9, if he was to be dropped in there with Pasternak and Marchand, maybe that's a fit. I don't know if he's interested in that. Like, maybe it is just I'm going to Montreal and that's it. But
How do you think Charlie Coyle looks in Winnipeg?
I think he's looking to get out.
I was just in Minnesota. You're going to send me further north? It's a terrible idea. They
7.5.
They need to get creative.
Boston.
Boston.
Yeah.
Period. Right. One of their goalies has got to go. Swayman, I believe, is coming up.
Yeah.
You have to start making. You got to start making moves.
But they are also like, when you look at that blue line, when you look at Marchand and Pasternak, they're not interested in rebuilding. They're going to need to find a center to drop in there to replace Bergeron.
Yep.
I don't know who else is going to be out there. Maybe he is a fit as that two-way guy that I still wouldn't give him $9 million, but they might be desperate in a year and have to. Other than Montreal, that's the only place I've been able to look around and go, yeah, maybe I could see that.
Yeah. Well, and it will be. But I'm not wasting my time on PLD.
No, if I'm almost anybody else, unless he's coming with an extension, I'm not making a trade because I expect he's just going to walk in a year to Montreal.
Well, and I was going to say, even with an extension, do you want that guy?
No, as you've said, he's already bailed on 2 franchises.
Well,
so
and at what point does he go, yeah, all right, I'll go there?
2 years later.
I'm disinterested. You're like, I don't need that guy. Anybody who's going to bring that,
Right.
what are you doing in the room? And you've already looked at a Winnipeg room that is.
Well, they're going to clean it right out. By the sounds of it, Scheifele's going to go too.
Yeah, it's
What
another
a trash organization, right? Like,
Winnipeg.
yeah.
I don't think it's a trash organization.
Oh, no, I do.
I just think.
Hellebuck's going to go. Like, they're going to.
Well, I was on the way over here today. I was looking at it, and Hellebuck said, I don't want to sign an extension.
Yeah, no, I'm out.
And so you are now entering rebuild city limits. It's you can see it.
Well, that's the old joke, right? Kevin Cheveldayoff hasn't been able to do anything to improve that team for long. It's Kevin trade deadline day off and Kevin Canada day off, right? Like,
Yep.
he's just not been able to get. Now, part of that is obviously where he is, right? Like trying to attract free agents to Winnipeg is.
But let's think about when they first were on the cusp, and they should have beat Vegas in that expansion year, and
Why?
they didn't. Just because that they were the team that they should have won that series.
Okay. Lots of teams should have beaten Vegas.
Yeah. Game 1 win, and you're like, this is the trajectory that franchise was on, and then it's just been the mass exodus on D.
Yeah.
But you were looking at that point that trajectory was build through the draft, patience, build through the draft. And there were lots of accolades going Cheveldayoff's way for his patience. Maybe not in your pants.
Nope.
But in a lot of places. Front cover of Hockey News. Next Canadian Stanley Cup champion. Bam, Winnipeg Jets.
Well, how'd it go?
And not well. But I'm just saying, you clearly are seeing through all the bullshit. Matt knows more.
I do. Yeah.
Yep. No. It's.
But
it's
for years now, I've
Yep.
been lower on the Jets than most people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I was speaking from the heart.
Sure. Yeah.
You took it.
really
You
felt
took
like
it in a different direction.
I did. Yeah.
So your ability to see through all the bullshit.
I just don't think they're a good team or a good room.
Well, and that has proven to be true.
Yeah.
They are the flip side of your Boston Bruins coin.
Yes. That's actually a perfect way of.
If you bang the drum loud enough and long enough, Matt, some will be right, some will be wrong.
Sorry, I see what you're saying. That I kept saying the Bruins are going to fall off, and they have done the opposite at every turn. I thought you meant maybe a room that's getting more out of it than the sum of its parts, right? And is a better organization than maybe they have any right to be right now. Yeah?
But look at you, man. You've been surviving all these years by
burying the Jets.
And
every time someone brings up the Bruins, but the Jets, fucking losers.
Those fucking Bruins blow. I don't trust those guys.
Right.
I have no faith in them. Oh, wait. Anyways.
Yeah. The Leafs bring in Shane Doan.
Oh, I've been waiting. Who hasn't been calling out for that move?
Special assistant to his best friend, Brett Living, essentially is what I... Look,
and childhood idol of Austin
Matthews. I wonder sometimes, though, as I think about this, has Shane Doan been brought in here to do just one job? And that's like anytime he's in the Leafs practice facility and Austin Matthews is on the other side of the room, he's like, hey, this is way nicer than what we ever had in Arizona. Walking into the gym, we never had anything like this with the Coyotes. Never in Arizona did it look like this, Austin. I think that might be the sole reason to bring him in, man.
Come in after a February defeat of
Arizona.
As I'm looking around going, Ottawa? I don't know. Like who are the shitbirds we're talking about here? And go, wow, you hear that 19,000 singing and chanting? That's about 15,000 more than we ever get in Arizona. Yeah, a little hype.
That's it. Money's well spent. I got no problem with that.
A little hype, man. A little sort of pump it up.
Hey, way better to be here. Yeah.
Hey, when's the last time the Toronto dump spontaneously combusted? I can't think of it.
That's it, man. Yeah, there was a lot of talk going around when this happened about, what a respected guy and a leader, right? And a guy with, plays playoff hockey. Would you like to guess how many playoff game wins Shane Doan had throughout his entire 20-year career?
So you mean games that he participated in that
where
they
his
won?
team won?
4.
Yeah, it's much higher than that. It's 21, but not all in one year, or he'd have a cup. But over his 20-year career, 21 playoff game wins. Rob, would you like to take a guess at how many playoff wins the Matthews, Marner, Nylander group has?
How many wins?
Playoff game wins, not series wins. Same as Doan.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just go with 6.
Yeah, he's doing the math.
12. I'm going to go with 21.
It is 21.
Yeah! Woohoo!
super respected veteran over 20 years gets 21 playoff wins. Bring that guy in to lead us.
Well,
guys at 25 who already have 21. And look, not trying to ring the bell on what a great playoff success the Leafs have been. My point is actually that no matter how mediocre the Leafs have been in the playoffs, Shane Doan is not the pillar, the light that leads you forward.
Well, I would only disparage Shane Doan in a room that he's not in.
Yeah, okay.
Because I'm not sure that's going to go well for me.
He would disparage you to your face if you were a visible minority, but that's a slightly different conversation.
This is a guy, and it's only worth noting that when that team went through various rebuilds, he was never interested in leaving. Mm-hmm. He enjoyed the cushy Arizona. I see it's in Mike Babcock. Loved the cushy Arizona existence. And now is somehow willing to make the move?
Well, you wonder what that says about the Coyotes and how long he thinks they're going to be.
Means he doesn't like Kansas City or Houston is what it really means.
Yeah, it to me, man, I look at this and it's clearly the first negotiating token being offered to Austin Matthews and whatever. But when you look at this guy and what he might contribute to the front office, you're talking about an organization that has been the laughingstock of the league for a while, reported on by Katie Strang. And I'm not saying he did it, but he was a part of an organization that was abusive to its employees, drafted Mitchell Miller, constantly broke draft rules that cost them draft picks with the pre-combine training things. I'm not saying all of these were his decisions.
Are we going to cleanse him by his affiliation with Hockey Canada?
I'm not.
Oh, wait, maybe that's not a great idea.
Built a great Spangler Cup roster. Hockey Canada, maybe not the best judge of character right now either, as you're alluding to. I don't get this other than it's Brad Treliving's buddy from when they worked in Arizona together, and maybe does it nudge 2% Austin Matthews in the right direction. It was his idol growing up.
Yep.
I don't, but I look at this and go, I don't understand what this was supposed to bring to our organization, right? To improve them. It's just a guy. That's
just a guy.
Just a guy, man.
Yep. Well, I would agree. Now, do we count Memorial Cup wins in there?
Sure.
It's a long time ago.
It was, yeah.
Guy was a winner. I think he was with Darcy Tucker. That's got to be a nice connection.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't Ginla on that Darcy Tucker team?
That's a nice.
Kamloops?
That's a nice junior team. Don Hay coached.
Sure.
Look at that.
All right.
Again, like most things, Rob remembers clearly 80s and 90s.
Alex DeBrincat would like to leave Ottawa until it comes out that maybe he doesn't want to leave Ottawa. But he has submitted to Pierre Dorion, who I guess for now is still in charge, that said, if you're going to trade me, here are the teams I would consider signing an extension with. And so for people who haven't followed this quite as closely, he doesn't have a no-trade list. Technically, Ottawa can trade him wherever they want. But you'll get far more for him in return if, you lock him up to a long-term contract as part of that and then make the deal. So the list is to say, yeah, if you sent me here, you'd probably get more for me, which is why that's important. Look, he didn't have a great year in Ottawa. I don't think he was a disaster, although you came in and were not happy with Pierre Dorion's characterization of leading the league in hit goalposts or whatever it was several months ago. How do you view the Alex DeBrincat, experience thus far? Are you pissed that they're going to lose him? Do you think they are going to lose him? Like, where are you at on this?
See, and if you recall way back to when when he showed up for training camp, so we're talking last September. We're fresh off the Giroux signing, the DeBrincat trade. Cam Talbot is coming in, and we're going to we're going to stabilize the goaltending. All these things are going to happen, and the media is saying, "Hey, so you're free to sign a contract now. What do you think about this team? And it's young and it's up and coming." And he's like, "Yeah, we'll see. They got a lot of shooters here." Like that was your intro to the media, which was, yeah, I'm not sure where I fit in here. I'm not sure how this is going to go. He had no say in being traded.
That's right.
He came to Ottawa, clearly, by all reports, not super stoked to come here.
But open-minded.
Yeah. And I don't for a second believe he didn't try his hardest.
Right.
He was at 25 goals, a very down season.
Mm-hmm.
He was, in terms of 5-on-5 contribution, super low. He was a -31 on an above 500 team. You just sort of go, wow, I'm underwhelmed. And when I couple that with his training camp statements, you sort of go, am I shocked? Am I clutching my pearls right now that he doesn't want to sign here? No, not at all.
So did you read anything into the statement that came out afterwards that said he does want to stay here? He likes the coach. Like, there was sort of some mixed reports last week. I got to be honest, I read that last one as, I don't want this to become a thing in case I do end up here.
Or
for at
muddy
least
the
another
waters
year.
elsewhere, right? That I'm a bad guy and I'm a.
Hey, I like Ottawa. I like the coach, but yeah, get me the hell out of here.
Yeah,
Right.
I would love to be. And
Don't marry yourself to this coach either. 'Cause things are going to change here pretty
I would say Sheldon Keefe has now moved back back into the safe space. The hot seat is DJ's now
Yes.
in Matt and my
I think that's right.
back and forth conversation of who lasts longer, which has lasted way longer than either one of us would have anticipated.
Yeah.
It now comes down to Ryan Bonus. What can you do to enhance
The assistant GM.
Yeah, the assistant GM here, who is the pro, he's in charge of the pro side, in improving Ottawa's shitty pro talent trade record. And so if they can find, and the initial reports from LeBron saying, I'm spitballing, I don't know, but Vegas, Florida, Dallas, Nashville are four of the sort of
I don't know, but here are very specific teams that
all four in no income tax states.
Everyone keeps trying to draw the line to Detroit because that's where he's from.
The first two teams outside of those that I look towards, Carolina and the Islanders. Just in terms, I know the Islanders are hard up against it too.
But Carolina keeps trying to get some scoring, like the Pacioretty thing, they blew up in their face, like by no fault of their own.
Yep.
They need to get, and they're not afraid to experiment, right? They're not afraid to do crazy shit. Like even if he wasn't locked up, they might take him for a year to.
Hey, you, Brent Burns.
Yeah, see if they can get over the hump with them. There.
And so a team that is in dire need, both those Islanders and the Hurricanes, in need of scoring.
Yeah.
Now somebody said last week, is DeBrincat a Rod Brindamore kind of guy? And in terms of his
Let's find out if he's a Mike Babcock kind of guy.
Yeah, well, balls out kind of pace game that Carolina plays may not lead towards. And again, both those teams that I had shot out, sort of, they need to make moves. All those teams do. Nashville is the most intriguing, but everybody's got to send something back, right? And so, what is it that? I would look at Dallas and Nashville in terms of the rumored teams.
It's interesting, though. Ottawa doesn't, at this point, I don't think, want futures.
No.
They're trying to contend now.
Correct.
So
when you make the Giroux signing, you trade away a young goaltender in Gustafson for Talbot, and then you
and
trade,
you go get Jake Chychrun.
And you trade a first for Chychrun, you trade a first for DeBrincat. You have already said,
So the deal either has to be for futures, like picks and prospects that you're going to then turn around and flip, hopefully, or you need somebody coming in now that is going to help you, with Norris coming back, Chychrun having a full camp with, this group. Like the Sens obviously want to contend and take a huge step forward again this year. So they need a lineup piece, right? A Forsberg or it probably won't be, but just in terms of
and they're going to say can we treat you to a Matt Duchene?
Right.
Can we treat?
We did that already.
Can we treat you to whatever his name is? The
Ryan Johansson.
Ryan Johansson. Thank you. I'm like, no, thank you. Yeah, no, not at all. And so it does come down to what is the best what is the best in terms of they can do. But I lean towards we need more. If you could parlay that into a couple of middle six forwards,
Right.
that's where I'd like to see that go, right? As opposed to if they're willing to give us UC Saros.
Sure. Do you assume that this deal has to wait for the new ownership? Like, do you think there's anything to the idea that he wants to see the new owner, or is that just the card he can easily play right now? That's still sort of like, I'd really rather move on.
I would have felt that prior to the here's a list of teams. I thought that was the case, that he was waiting,
which would have been reasonable.
And then as soon as you hear, but here's a list of teams I would
but
go
while
to.
you're shopping me.
That to me you've now jumped the queue in terms of I'm no longer waiting for ownership.
Yeah.
And just on that, is there ever been a more Ottawa Senators story than we went from, we have 9 teams, we have 6 teams, this team's going to go for $1 billion. And now you're like,
and one of them has no money.
And now people are like, fuck that. I am not waiting in line. It's such an Ottawa Senators story that you've turned this positive into, despite the fact that they will sell for close to $1 billion, that it's somehow now become this.
Yeah, I've been saying that for a while too, right? That this is unquestionably going to end up in a better place than they were a year ago or whatever, 15 months ago.
But somehow it's a negative.
Somehow right now it's a fucking gong show, and what you've dragged the fans through again is... Yeah.
So the DeBrincat thing, he's gone, and I kind of felt like he was gone, as I said, as far back as last September. You never got it. You never, in terms of with this young core, he just never seemed to, despite being of a similar vintage, he just never seemed to mesh in terms of guys talking to the media and they're like, blah, blah, blah. He just never seemed to be dropped into that group socially, right? For whatever reason, he's a young guy with a young family, right? Which sets him already aside from...
And a lot of the single guys out singing Mr. Brightside.
Yeah, well, this is it, right? You have the Sandersons, the Norris, the Kachucks, the Stutzlas, right? You have this group of guys who are already out doing their thing, and then you have the family guy. And so, to me, it was. I loved the trade at the time. Well, I was positive on the trade.
Same.
But
there was some risk clear at the time, but I think we both liked what.
Yeah.
It said, we're trying right now.
We're trying this. You're going to bring in a 2-time 40-goal scorer, and you're like, that's perfect. And the guy said, he's a shooter. He's a shooter. Just didn't work out. And he was actually, he had far more assists than he had goals.
Right.
And so you're like, that's not how we saw this. And then the negative lag on the 5-on-5 play, and you're like, so it was a swing.
Yep.
And if nothing else, it was probably a foul off your own ankle.
Right.
So you see what you can recoup now in terms of trading, but I would be shocked if he was here come training camp.
I think I'm with you there. I think that's did you have anything you wanted to say on the final? I'll be honest with you, I haven't really watched almost any of it. The Jays have been on, the Red Blacks have been on. I tune in a bit, like if I'm channel surfing, but my resting channel is elsewhere.
I'm ready for it to be done.
Yeah.
With 2 teams that nobody really cares about, at least in this market. But the hockey I have watched has been entertaining.
Right.
To me, I watched large portions of Game 4, and man, Florida's there, and there's been a ton of huge hits.
Right.
Whether it's the Eichel hit, whether it's the Kachuk hit.
Yep.
Him getting hit by. And I can't remember, Kolasar.
Yeah.
That fucking guy's a beast, man.
Got buried.
If you go back to the Edmonton series, and you're like, he's just out there crushing people. But the Kachuk hit on Eichel, the Barbashev hit on Gudis, like, fuck, man, that looks so good. Right? Live by the sword, die by the sword kind of thing. So there's been a pile of big hits. There's been bite. There's been animosity. A lot of good stuff. And so I've enjoyed what I've watched. I am kind of ready for it to be done. And, let's get on to the draft. Let's get on to free agency. But I wonder about the concussion protocol the other night with Kachuk getting hit and then him still playing. And you're like, and how does a guy who looks visibly wobbly stay out for the power play and then go for concussion protocol?
Just don't go to the bench. Don't let anybody wave you over.
Well, I'm like, I don't know what's... And now you watch game 4 and he looks...
rattled.
Like something's off, right? Like in the third period, there were large stretches where he didn't play. And I don't know what's happening there. But as I've said to you, I picked Vegas in a short series.
Yep.
And it just, to me, Florida's got way more bounce back than like the games are close.
Well, this is like I've said to a couple people. I'm with you. I assumed Vegas would pound on them in 5 or 6, and that'd be it. But I assumed Boston would pound on them in 5 or 6, and Toronto, and Carolina. I've picked against Florida in every round.
Yeah.
And look, sitting here now at 3-1, I assume Vegas is going to close this out.
That's what Boston thought too.
Right. But I don't know that, and I'm not super confident about it, but I'm also really not all that worried about it.
What? And so I found myself getting into a heated conversation at the barbecue about why I thought why I'd like to see Vegas win.
Okay.
And then after
It's funny, eh?
I stopped and took a step back and I'm like, I don't really care if either one of these teams win. And it really comes down to, Florida, you're trash. You're trash, and you've been trash.
They're part of the old school, man. Part of the original 26.
Well,
battling the new expansion era.
Well,
teams.
and they are an expansion team that comes in 1 year after Ottawa. So they are very, very close. And we can't.
Similar vintage.
We've already seen our expansion cousins win, I don't know, three Stanley Cups. So we can't have those shitbirds.
Tampa.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can't have those shitbirds in Florida now. We're drawing their 4,400 people.
Is it Bill Foley who owns the Knights?
Yep.
I think is his name.
Yep.
He said, fucking balls on this guy. Before the expansion draft, we'd like to build a championship team within 6 years.
Yeah.
And they go to the final in that first year, and everybody's like, holy fuck, like,
look at that guy.
maybe they did it. And then they don't. They sort of fall back, but they've never been bad. Like, the whole time they've been a playoff team.
They missed the playoffs last year only due to injury.
That's right. But they'd been to the conference final again, and this will be
3 times the conference final.
year 6.
Yeah.
You kind of go.
And that story is, Bill Foley pulled up to somebody's dock in his fucking, like, okay, right away, I hate you already. And saying,
yacht.
I'm going to pitch this idea, and you're like, get the fuck out of here. Somewhere out in Kelowna. You're like, I don't, whatever. But there they are.
Yep.
And as I said to you, I don't know, last week, the week before, for 6 years, Vegas has supported the team, and they have taken it in as their own team. And so...
Yeah, you were the one, you mentioned it on last week's show. The Vegas reporter
I drank
who said...
a lot before the show last week. I have very little recollection.
A Vegas reporter who said, this is a hockey town.
This is our team.
Yeah.
And Florida can never...
Because the A's are getting ready to move in.
Yep.
The Raiders have come.
Yeah.
They're like, no, this is...
We're a hockey
That was
town.
the advantage that Bettman was correct about. Get in first into these markets, right? Like, make sure you establish, you're the first pro team in there. People fall in love with it. And when you go to the Cup final in that first year, that'll help. But it's interesting to hear them go, no, this is a hockey town first.
Yeah, and I love that.
Of course,
and
man.
so right away, that gives them a much bigger leg up than like I said,
Johnny come lately fucking Panthers.
well, and the Panthers who, my dad saying, hey, I was at a place in South Florida, buy $10 in gas and get a free Panthers ticket. I get my gas and I get a Panthers ticket, which is way up in the nosebleeds.
Yeah.
But I can wander down to the blue lines in the 100 with no problem.
Doug McLean used to say on Sportsnet, right? He obviously used to run the Panthers. And long after he had been dismissed, he kept a place down there. And he said there was a bar that he used to go to across the highway from the arena. And he would say, literally, like in February, can you put on the Panthers game? And the bartender would look at him crazy like the NFL season's over. You're like, it's right there, like right across the street. There's an NHL team playing.
Not the Carolina Panthers.
Right. Could you please put on the Florida Panthers game that we can see from your window?
I'm looking at, out the other window is the American Eagle and whatever else at the outlet mall.
Yes.
So it's really hard, man. I'm trying to cater to this mother and 15-year-old daughter who are excited about the 15% off at Aerie. So
So fuck the Ford.
So blow me, you guy with your good hair there, old man. Yeah. So that is my take on
Knights.
Florida. I'm going to step one step back from that, but I'm a Bruce Cassidy guy.
Yep.
And I love that.
And you know me, I've circled around. I'm kind of on the Jack Eichel.
I am not on the Jack Eichel.
I know you're not.
I am not.
I like to see, kind of because I hate Buffalo.
And my heart is bruised with the Mark Stone thing too. So I'm just, it's the.
As I said, I'm not watching. I'm not like,
I don't care about this.
I've ordered all kinds of their garb or whatever.
Hey,
but
one question.
Yeah.
Who is going to get signed at an inflated price next year?
Michael Bunting.
And have a Leaf-centric mofo.
Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong. But that wasn't part of my question.
Okay.
It was, where is the buyer's remorse going to come greater in terms of commitment, both in money and term? I'm going to give you two names.
Okay.
Aiden Hill, Ivan Barbashev.
Yeah, Barbashev feels like Nichushkin, right? And we do this every year. We pick one guy who's sort of, pretty good second line player, and he has a great playoffs. And we're like,
Fourth line player in St. Louis when he was there, right? And they traded a first for him.
yeah, now he's in the top 6.
This guy like 17 or 18 points.
Yep.
He's laying hits out like nobody's business.
I think
He smells like a Maltby.
it's probably him. Because I don't think people will be lining up for Aiden Hill. But we had this conversation last year.
When there's a Francois Brossois out there,
Right.
would you line up for
Frankie
Aiden Hill?
Brossois, yeah. Laurent Brossois. Larry Brossois.
Sorry, Larry Brossois.
I just don't think people will buy in. Like, we've seen Michael Layton and Antti Niemi and guide teams to a cup, right? That it can happen.
Michael Layton did not guide him.
No, he guided them to a final. But we talked about this last week. You have Aiden Hill in the running.
Yep.
For the Conn Smythe, and
100% still do.
I don't. So I do think if you're asking which one more likely gets overpaid for too long, I think it's probably Barbashev. But right now,
Okay. Yeah, no,
that's pretty solid.
And I don't just.
Yeah.
So he is the classic. I'm in a very unique or good spot, and then someone's going to pay me for that, and then go, I can't replicate that over 82 games.
I'm suddenly not on a line with Jack Eichel and Jonathan Marchessault or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
This is it.
I'm with your fucking losers.
Yeah, I've now been paid by somebody who needs something but doesn't have the talent. Because if they did have it, they'd be paying somebody else.
That's it.
So okay, no, I don't disagree with you. He is the classic forward who has.
Let me hit you with one.
Yeah.
You got 3 years left on Bobrovsky's deal at $10 million.
Zero chance, man.
Is there anyone who looks at these playoffs and goes, maybe you could talk me into this? Probably still with some retention, but is there any chance Florida can use this, A, to get out from under them or from under him, and B, will they want to? Like, are they dumb enough to believe, oh, there he is. This is what we paid for. He's back.
Yeah. No.
No.
Is there somebody dumb enough?
I mean, they signed him. Someone gave him to him, so.
Yeah, I think the league has looked past
the $10 million
that $10 million goaltender. And unless Florida's eaten 30.
5.
No, I was going to say 30.
Yeah.
30% of that.
Yeah.
Right? That you go, oh, I'm willing to take a flyer on a $7 million Bob. But I've seen enough in his, 5-6 years since his last Vezina
Yeah.
to go,
No thanks.
probably not, man.
Yeah.
Probably not. Yeah. The other thing I want to finish on, and you haven't been watching, but this will resonate with you because I've felt like this maybe since midway through the Leaf series. I'm suffering from Paul Maurice fatigue big time.
Little smug.
Well, and he is sort of, he's got this, I'm a witty everyman kind of approach. I'm going to drop the F-bomb in every post game, but man, I'm suffering from Paul Maurice fatigue. Like, just
I think the Jets did too.
Can you go?
And then he suffered from a little Jets fatigue.
Yeah, it showed. Let the record show Paul Moe felt the fatigue more than the Jets did,
for sure.
He's the one
He
throwing
blinked first.
He threw the keys on the table and said, "Fuck it,
I'm out of here."
You got it. Anyways, that's just my. There's only
I
so,
get that.
There's only so much rippy
repartee? Rippy
repartee. So I fucking suddenly become a Flintstone character.
Might be just about time to wind this down.
This is it, Matt. That's it. Ring the bell.
For our $7 million Bob, my name's Matt Robinson.
Our 7-cent Bob.
Yeah. We're out of here on that. Don't forget, later on in the week, we'll drop on Friday a little music talk.
Look for it.
It's going to be great. And perhaps something else before then. We'll see. It's a fluid week. We'll see how things move, man. We'll see what's happening around the podcast. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. I don't know what you're doing. Go ahead.
If you're still here now, where have you been?
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, that's it for this one. We will see you all next time.
Fuck, man. Thank you, guys.
The hell was that?
Number one bullshit. Oh, number one bullshit.
Why are you so pissy?